God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 18 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California. And I have to tell you, Brad, I am so excited to be going into what is the longest National Football League season of all time ahead of you in games. So, Brad, Mr. Hoyseth, how are you doing today?
As you can tell by my outfit, I am, borderline in hiding right now because Dave's got a 2-game lead on me, and that's unfamiliar territory for both of us, might I add. And, I've been a little bit cryptic on my picks this week with Dave. I've got some special ones lined up to maybe surprise him with. I got to give myself a chance. I can't have you just picking the same games I pick and that kind of thing, and then I end up losing by 2 games. I got to at least give it a shot. If I recall last year, I was up 2 games on you going into the last week, and you were unable to make up any ground. So hopefully I can be like an old racehorse and come around the far turn. I think that the greatest come from behind racehorse of all time, Silky Sullivan, I believe was the name of the horse. I'm going back probably 80 years on that, 70 or 80 years. But Silky Sullivan was known for coming like from way back and, 15, 18 lengths and winning races. So I'm a little trivia there for some of you people. Got my Bob Dylan hat on, It's kind of the way I feel. It's kind of the way I feel after last week.
I was going to say, in case anybody wants to see a good horse movie, my all-time favorite comeback story has to be Seabiscuit. Oh. So that's the big horse that came from behind. Hey, Brad, I wanted to, so just so everybody knows, we cover the top 10 games worth actually spending some money on every week. As Brad mentioned, I've got a very small 2 game lead going in to this week. And if they make another Star Trek movie, they might call it Unfamiliar Territory, which is exactly where I'm at, slightly ahead of Hoyseth. But before we get into the picks, because I don't think we are covering the New York Giants at all this week, Brad. But have you ever seen a worse quarterback performance than what Mike Glennon put together? The stat line. Let me read you the stat line, Brad, because I know you're riveted to know what his week 17 was like. He went 4 for 11 for a whopping 24 yards. At one point during the game, he had successfully thrown for negative 10 yards. And I'm not even sure how you do that. It is the worst stat line I think I've ever seen for a quarterback in the history of my following of this league for the last 40 plus years. I noticed that you didn't take any Giants games this week. How do you feel about the Giants this week, by the way?
Yeah, I could care less, honestly. The Giants we've been talking about them periodically throughout the year. That team is it's about as unwatchable as a team can get. I got to tell you, another team that's getting close to unwatchable is the New Orleans Saints. Ooh. And believe it or not, they're still in the playoff hunt. I mean, I can't believe it, but with a few twists and turns this weekend, the Saints could actually make the playoffs, and that team is almost unwatchable. The offense is, just brutally tough to watch, and they play some decent defense, but. Boy, watching Taysom Hill out there is that's just not a quarterback,
Yeah, I think everybody in New Orleans is waiting, when Russell Wilson comes marching down, I think is where they're all at. All right, Mr. Hoyseth, let's go ahead and get into it, my friend.
All right, let me bring up the sheet here. I picked a couple games, and you're going to find out why I picked this one first. and that's the Seahawks at the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are 7-point favorites at home. The Seahawks are freshly out of the playoffs now. They're gone. But the Cardinals are not playing very good football. And with COVID and some of the injuries they've had on offense, I'm just not sure, Dave, they're worthy of being a 7-point favorite. Offensively, they've really struggled. And, the Seahawks are just going to let it fly. They've suddenly Rashad Penny has turned into one of the best running backs in the league. I'm not sure how that happened, but I get a sense that Seattle towards the end of the season has gotten a little bit healthy. Russell Wilson's turned things around a little bit. I'm going to take the Seahawks, and I usually on this final weekend of the season, there is, at least one team that kind of gets upset. And I got to tell you, I get a sense perhaps the Cardinals could get upset in this game and the Seahawks win it outright. So I'm going to take Seattle. I'm going to take the 7 points.
Yeah, this is I thought I'd have to wait until later in the show to get my "what you talking about" Willis line in, but the Cardinals. Who did they beat last week? They beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
In Dallas. The Cardinals have been so up and down, and they've been, so unbelievably difficult to predict. On a side note, my one of my sisters lives in the beautiful Phoenix metropolitan area, and she sent me a email about a week and a half ago, and it was a petition that some of the fans had put together that they sent to Roger Goodell that said, please don't let the Cardinals go to the playoffs. We don't want to be disappointed. Anyways, I thought that was pretty funny, but I look at this and you're right. This could go either way, but the Cardinals are still, sort of jockeying for position in the playoffs. It still means something to them in this particular game. I think they'll definitely win. 7 points is a lot to sort of swallow on a game that is sort of meaningless. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Cardinals in this one.
All right. Well, I'm off to a good start. I need look, I just need you to go under 500.
Yeah.
If you go under 500 and I manage to disagree with you on every game,
This next game should give you a shot. This next game should pull us even, I would think. The Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. It is the battle of both coaches who are probably both going to be canned come Black Monday. Though I think the Vikings they're just going to be slow. I think they're wavering, Brad, and on their decision about Mike Zimmer. And I think the fans are ready. The local newspapers are ready. The announcers are ready. Everybody's ready except the Wolf family, who owns the Minnesota Vikings at this point. And I think they're concerned that there isn't anybody better out there to be a head coach for this Minnesota Viking team. And that might actually be true at this point, but a change is definitely needed. That being said, I think Zimmer still feels like he's fighting for his job. I brought up Mike Lennon for a reason. I've got to believe that the Vikings are going to play way better in this game. I'm going to go ahead and take the Minnesota Vikings in this game. It is only a 2.5 point spread. What happened in Green Bay was disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful, and I think they're going to turn things around against the Bears in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I see a team that's kind of quit last week, midway through the second quarter. I really hated the body language on Dalvin Cook throughout that game, where you could just see on his face, he's like, man,
not worth it. Yeah.
We can't move the ball and we can't get a stop. And the reality is that the Vikings are not a good defense against the run. That is the one thing that Chicago is actually pretty good at with Montgomery. And then we're going to get maybe your old friend Nick Foles might be the quarterback for the Bears. And I'll be getting the text messages from Dave throughout the game about, screw Foles and all this kind of stuff. But I get a sense this Vikings team is kind of quit. I mean, if you read, through the lines and the newspapers and go to online forums and stuff, like you said, everybody believes Zimmer's gone. And that weighs on a team. That kind of stuff it has an effect on players. You don't have Adam Thielen. They're coming off a really, really disappointing performance, and now they got nothing to play for. I don't think these guys have a lot of pride, Dave. I really don't. And I'm going to take the Bears because the Bears have been in this situation now for weeks. So they know how to play as a team with no hope. I'm going with the hopeless Bears.
It's so funny because during that game, the Sunday night game, I think I texted you at one point. I'm like, why aren't they playing the rookie quarterback that they spent the 3rd round draft pick on?
Yeah.
Mund is his name. And I don't know if you caught it, but the press conference after or the next day, they asked Mike Zimmer, why didn't you play your rookie quarterback? Why didn't you want to see what the question was, why didn't you want to see what your rookie quarterback could do? And his response was, and I'm paraphrasing here, I see him every day. So you have to sort of give it to Zimmer for at least getting one last zinger in before his time in Minnesota is most likely over. I've just got to believe this team's going to is going to bounce back and play way better. It's a home game. I'm sticking with the Vikes.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these little barbs thrown out there by Zimmer this year in particular. Yeah. And it leads me to believe that there is really a little bit of a rift, more than a little bit of a rift between he and Rick Spielman, the general manager.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, did Zimmer pick Kellen Mond or did Spielman pick him? And, to make that kind of comment about your backup quarterback and what was thought to be perhaps your quarterback of the future. I think Mike Zimmer's gone come Monday morning, Dave. Anyways, I'm going to move on to my next game. It's the Jets at Buffalo.
Oh, God.
And your favorite team, the Jets, you've gotten the Jets wrong almost every time we've had that game, Dave. And, I could easily turn on you and take the Jets, but I'm not going to. The Bills, I think, are going to put this game away early. They still have something to play for, provided things don't change. Here's another thing we didn't talk about in the opening. I don't see a lot changing in the AFC playoff picture. If you look at those 5 games or the 5 teams that are currently in the top 5 slots, they have really soft opponents. Maybe the one is the Patriots having to play Miami could go the other way. But I don't think anything is going to change from now until next week when the playoffs starts in terms of the top 5 positions in the AFC. I think they're all pretty solid. They all have lousy teams they're playing this weekend. But having said that, one of the reasons is because the teams that are playing for something, those 5 teams are, playing against teams that really have nothing to play for. And the Jets, although they've been game the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've seen a lot of improvement over Zach Wilson. I just get a sense that this Bills team is going to come out hungry. They're going to want to put this thing to bed quietly before it festers and gets into the 3rd or 4th quarter. It's 16.5. That's a whole lot of points, but I see the Bills just coming in and the Jets kind of rolling over.
Yeah, this actually is hard for me, Brad. I considered flip-flopping on you here just to, open up the door even more for you. But
that's why I put this game in there, Dave.
I know. But I look at it. So it's hard to imagine. Buffalo still does have a little something to play for. Weather could come into play here. The Jets have sort of, they gave Tampa Bay, a run for their money, which was, highly entertaining last week for a variety of reasons. That football game was. But I find it really hard to pick against the Bills in this one. Though the point spread is so high, Brad. It is so high. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Bills in this one and just roll the dice and see what happens.
Yeah, I managed to pull off a win in the third place game on Sunday night by 1 point. And my opponent had Jarvis Landry, who was sitting on 49 yards for the entire last quarter. And I think the Browns threw the ball like 20 times in the final quarter.
Yeah.
And then Najee Harris, of course, needed 1 yard to pretty much solidify my win. And he ends up going the distance. So, I mean, I went through the gamut of emotions in a matter of about 5 seconds because Harris got the first down. And I thought, that's it. And then he was in the end zone. I'm like, he scored. Now there's still 50 seconds left. I got to survive. But I managed to survive it. But even worse than that, there was a high-profile fantasy football league where there's a ton of money at stake. And the guy that ended up winning $500,000 had Najee Harris, and he won it on the last play.
Wow!
When Harris scored, and the second place finisher gets $100,000. So that was a $400,000 play for somebody. So if I lose to Dave Dabba by 2 games, I guess it's not all that bad.
It's not all that bad. What's the buy-in on that league?
I'm not really sure. I think it's probably $2 or $3 grand, something like that. It's usually one of those things where they have, about 100 leagues going at once, and everybody plays in their own league. And then if you finish in the top 1 or 2 in your league over the course of the first 10 weeks, you make it into the final pool of teams, and everybody competes from that point forward for $500,000. So everybody puts in 3 or 4 grand. You probably have, 1,100 teams dumping money into it. And it's kind of a fun deal, but it wasn't so fun for the guy that finished second this week.
Yeah, it's got a Premier League flair to it. All right, moving on to the Big Ben Roethlisberger's last game in the National Football League. The Steelers at the Ravens. The Steelers still with a outside chance of making the playoffs. Ravens are favored by 5.5 in this one. Whether or not Lamar Jackson plays, it's all over for Pittsburgh this year. Mike Tomlin will finish the season again, never falling below 500 as a head coach in the National Football League. But the Steelers are not going to beat the Ravens in this game. I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens and give up the 5.5.
Yeah, the funny thing is Pittsburgh, I've watched that team play a number of times this year. I can't believe they're over 500. That's a terrible football team.
Yeah.
And credit to Tomlin for kind of keeping it together, I guess you could say. The Ravens are kind of in the same spot. They got like an outside chance, I believe, of making the playoffs. And so I think both teams have to have a lot of things go right in order to make it, but I think the Ravens might even need to have more things go right than the Steelers. The Steelers have to have a tie in a game. I mean, that to me puts you out. That to me means you're out. And so, but no, I agree. I think this Pittsburgh team is terrible. The Ravens are playing at home. 5.5 is a little bit much for me. But I know that Pittsburgh's got all kinds of problems now. I think Deontay Johnson has gone to the COVID list or something, or he's injured. And, I just kind of feel like this team has exhausted all of its energy. Yeah, they're going to give it the old college try, but I just kind of feel like the Ravens playing at home with a beat up Steeler football team that's had a bunch of emotional battles in a row. I think the Ravens are going to win this thing handily.
Yeah, and Big Ben already did his tearful goodbye, to Pittsburgh. It is at times very hard to watch Big Ben play. He's definitely maybe getting out a little too late. So I just see, this Ravens team has, Harbaugh, they need to get a win here. They need to stop the bleeding. And this is a good chance, to at least finish the season with 9 wins. Yeah, leave it at that. At least finish, it's a positive, sort of heading into next year for this team. Because 5 or 6 weeks ago, Brad, you were like, we were all like the Ravens are. At one point, I think we had the Ravens winning the Super Bowl.
No, I didn't.
Well, you know what I mean. We had the Ravens at least in the winning the playoff game. And at no point did I not have the Ravens in the playoffs, and this losing streak's just been, hard to watch. So I think they'll rebound. Pittsburgh's done for a wide variety of reasons. Tomlin's already accomplished more than any human could have accomplished as a head coach with this particular football team. A horrible offensive line.
Yeah. No, they're bad.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go to my next game, and it's kind of a twisty one as well. And it's the Packers at the Lions, and the Packers are 2.5-point favorites. And I think everybody's big question is, are they really going to play their starters? And I mean, they claim that they're going to at least start their starters, and it has a feeling of almost like a preseason game. Well, how much are they going to play them? You get to that final preseason game, and well, we're not going to play them all that much, and we might play him a quarter and a half, something like that. But I get a sense the Packers are going to play their starters for a little while. And how much value does that have? Well, I think it can have quite a bit. It's not inconceivable that they could get up a couple touchdowns on the Lions in a quarter and a half. And even though Dan Campbell's had his guys playing hard, Ross St. Brown has been spectacular for them. The Packers are 2.5-point favorites, and I say they're going to go out and win the game. I think they'll get a lead, and Detroit won't be able to catch them in the second half, and I don't care who's on the field because the Lions have nothing but backups on the field anyway. So I'm going to take the Packers and to see if you have the guts to take the Lions.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and take the Lions. I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I don't think we'll see Aaron Rodgers play. You might see some light work done for some of the starters. But this is this should be there is no reason to play anybody. You've wrapped it up already. You've got home field advantage. Why are you going to risk injury at this point? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, the real question is are the Packers second string players better, second and third string players better than the Lions first string players? And the answer is yes, but it's a Detroit Lions home game. You know how that home field advantage works. I think the Packers are going to roll over on this one. I'm going with the Lions, and I feel good about it, Brett.
Yeah, I don't think it's as clear cut whether or not they'll play David. The reason I say that is because Bill Belichick used to consistently play his starters in the final game. Didn't matter what his lead was or anything like that. And the rule of thought for me is that, the Packers are the only team with a bye next week.
Yeah.
And sometimes that 1 week of bye can get you a little rusty. And sometimes 2 weeks of bye can get you more rusty. And so I think they do play them for a little bit. I don't think they put them in any position where they're going to get injured. Like I think probably Devontae Adams is the first guy that comes out of the game for the Packers. I don't see them running Aaron Jones a ton, but I could see Dylan playing a bit, them throwing to the tight ends. And, I think it's an intriguing game. 2.5. That line did go down quite a bit from the beginning of the week. I think it started at 6 or 7, something like that, but it's down to 2.5. Many people are on the same side of it as you, thinking that the Lions are going to beat them. But hey, at the end of the day, the voting public still thinks that by 2.5 points, the Packers are a good bet, and I'm going to say they're right.
Okay, Mr. Hoysef, I will go ahead and move on to the next game because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to play. They're not going to play. They're not going to show up. Moving on to the next game.
He might be retiring in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right, Brad. Panthers at the Buccaneers. And should we talk at all about the meltdown? Do we need to talk about the meltdown at all? Antonio Brown was officially released today by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's all over there. You know, I always joke about a head coach getting fired at halftime, but I never thought I would see an actual player take their gear off, strip down so their shirts off, and walk off the field while a play was going on in the third quarter. I mean, like it is so Hollywood-esque. It's ridiculous. So
yeah, but here's the deal, Dave. If you had to make a list of the top 5 guys most likely to take their uniform off in a game and quit, wouldn't Antonio Brown be one of those guys?
He would have been at the top of the list. He
exactly.
would have been at the top of the list. Absolutely. You know, Terrell Owens would have been on that list as well, especially towards the end of his career. Mental health issues aside, let's move on to this game. Panthers at the Bucs. Bucs are favored by 8. You know, Tampa still needs to play everybody in this game. They are definitely in need. Do you think Tom Brady has texted Julian Edelman yet to see if he could get him off of Paramount Plus? Because he's working on that Inside the NFL show there now. So, desperate need of wide receivers in Tampa. I think they're even running an ad on Craigslist, Brad. Wide receiver needed ASAP. Minimum requirements, 40-yard dash, 5.5 seconds. They get a lot of players. A lot of players show up for that. So anyways, I look at this and Matt Rule, I was so on the Matt Rule bandwagon when he got hired. I thought it was the greatest speech I'd ever seen a coach give the day he got hired. And this year has been a complete disappointment. And I knew it was going to be a disappointment. And Brad, why did I know it was going to be a disappointment? Because of San Clemente's own Sam Darnold. I told you that Sam Darnold was done. I told you that he was a deer in the headlights. And you did not believe me for a very, very long time. Just absolutely a backup quarterback. That is all Sam Darnold is or is ever going to be, unfortunately, unless he has a Jim Plunkett resurrection moment at some point later in his career. But for now, he's done. Buccaneers. I'm going to go ahead and give up the 8 and take the Bucs at home.
Boy, picking on the pride of San Clemente. That's a tough way to go out of the season. But you know who Sam Darnold's better than? He's better than Cam Newton, Dave. That's the problem, is that they had Cam Newton, and he's terrible. And he is a shadow of his former self. He's not even fast anymore to run. They put him in there, and they run the option where he runs outside, and it's like watching it's like watching a snail go around the end. He's so slow anymore. Yeah. He's just a shadow of what he used to be. Look, the Buccaneers do have something to play for. They're going to have Mike Evans back, I believe, for that game. They still got Tyler Johnson, who's a young wide receiver out of Minnesota. That's a pretty good player. They still got Gronkowski. They got Cameron Brate. Running back is a real problem for them right now. Ronald Jones now dinged up. So they have some issues there. But you know how I feel about that, Dave. Running backs are a dime a dozen. You can replace those guys with anybody. I'm with you. I'm going to take the Buccaneers. I'm going to give the 8 points.
Yeah. I feel like I need to start a running back defense defense hashtag line. Yeah, look, I think it's a wise pick on your part. As we it'll be very interesting to see, how far out in front Tampa gets, and then if they actually do pull Tom Brady at some point in this game, because he does not want to come off the field ever. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens there.
All right, my next game is the Chargers at the Raiders, and the Raiders are a 3-point favorite. And I know how big of a fan of those Chargers Dave is, and I get a sense he's going to take the Chargers. I really think this game's kind of a toss-up. It's really one of the only intriguing games of the weekend. It's a great game. It's basically a playoff game. The winner goes to the playoffs. The loser doesn't, unless, of course, they tie. And then there's all kinds of things that come into play, like Pittsburgh could go and all that kind of stuff. But that's not going to happen. The winner of this game is going to go to the playoffs. The hottest team of the two, I believe, is the Raiders. I think they're playing the best football. The Chargers are still a hit-and-miss team. Young coaching staff. I don't know. I'm going to take the Raiders, Dave, and I'm going to see if maybe you swap your pick and go Chargers and see what you do.
Yeah, I think I was all Chargers on this week, sort of coming into it. So it's a question of, if I'm going to swap back to the Raiders or not. And you're right. This is a total toss up, man. I mean, this is a total toss up, and the Raiders, I guess since the Raiders are you're giving me 3 points on this, I'll take the Chargers thinking, hey, the Raiders could still win, but I can still beat you on the spread. I just think Herbert and this Charger offense is going to come to play. It's dome football. They're indoors. They're not traveling past the Mississippi, Brad. That's where the Chargers have had problems all year, on those long flights when they fly over the Mississippi to the East Coast. I like the Chargers just by a little bit in this game. I'm going to go ahead and stick with my original pick, Brad, thus giving you the opportunity, thus making Sunday Night Football potentially very interesting. One of us could actually be pulling for a tie as well, sort of coming into Sunday night, because this will be the last game of the regular season. I'm going Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the season that the final game of the season is going to be the Raiders and Chargers and the winner goes to the playoffs, I'd have said, oh, that's kind of intriguing. I mean, I don't think anybody suspected the Raiders would be in this position. The Chargers, everybody knew they had talent, but with a young coach, were they going to be able to put things together and win immediately? I just kind of feel like the Raiders are a team. What have they won 3 in a row now or something like that? And they're playing really good football. I feel like they got off to a decent start to the season, and then all the stuff went down with Henry Ruggs, and it really set them back a lot. And I did see this week where they had a guy get a DUI, I believe, on a Monday or something, one of their players on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know how that messes up the chemistry or if the kid will play. I'm not sure what the situation is there. But I just get a sense that the Raiders are coming in with a lot of confidence. Two teams that know each other. Yeah, I like Justin Herbert, but he still throws some inconsistent passes from time to time. Yeah. Where I just go, that's just not a smart play by the young kid. And so I'm going to take the Raiders, cross my fingers. I have no love affair with either team, but I actually kind of like watching both the teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game. You know what I think? You know how like at the start of your rookie year, they take all the young football players and they give them, speeches on, NFL etiquette, and they help them with a bunch of things, related to being a young player that just got drafted, coming into the NFL. What they should also do, Brad, is they should insist that either Lyft or Uber is on these kids' phones, because getting a DUI in today's era of Uber and Lyft is absolutely ridiculous.
Especially in light of the fact of what happened earlier in the season with Henry Ruggs.
And you're in Vegas. I mean, it's like it's not like it was hard to get a Lyft. It's some county, 50 miles outside of Indianapolis, where there aren't a lot of Lyfts and Ubers maybe rolling around. You're in a major metropolitan area. There's absolutely no excuse ever for a DUI for these guys. I can tell you that. All right. Moving on. Oh my gosh, Brad, I am so excited about this game. This is my either game of the week.
Yeah.
Saints at the Falcons.
How about neither?
Yeah. How about why? But I wanted to make sure we had this game because there was playoff implications in it. It would have been really easy to take a different game and bet against it, like the Titans game or something. But Saints at the Falcons. You got to give up a couple points. You got to give up 4.5 points here if you're going to take the Saints in this one. I believe the Saints are going to win this game, but I'm going to take the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to keep this thing close. I think Matty Ice is going to ride one more time. I feel like I've just opened up the door for you a little bit, but you've got to be wondering who the hell's going to throw the ball for the Saints in this game. The Saints absolutely have to win this game, obviously, but the Falcons are not going to roll over. This is a vastly improving Falcon defense, not offense, but defense. So I think that Falcons lose, but cover the spread.
Yeah, Dave, I'm not even sure the Falcons lose. I'm with you. I'm going to take the Falcons. I'm going to take the 4.5 points. I think the Saints are a mess. That's a bad football team right now.
Yeah.
They don't have a quarterback. After losing Jameis Winston, who, I know Winston's been criticized a lot over the years, but he had a good start to the season. And, but they just don't look like a good football team. Taysom Hill's not a quarterback, period. And if they think that experiment is going to work long term, then they got problems moving forward because he's not a quarterback. And so it was a nice little fun thing when he would play behind Winston or play behind Drew Brees, and he would come in every now and then and run the Wildcat or what have you. But you can't win football games consistently that way. I just don't think it's a good team. I think the Falcons still have some guys that are decent players. I love their young tight end. I don't like Matt Ryan at all, as you know. But these two teams know each other pretty well. 4.5 points is a large amount of points. The Saints still have something to play for if a lot of things go right. But I don't think anybody in New Orleans feels like this New Orleans team's in the playoffs come next week. And I'm with you. I'm going to take the Falcons.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, Taysom Hill is like the cherry on top of a sundae. And so it was great when Drew Brees was there. Drew Brees is this great, player. And you could afford to have a cherry on top of the sundae. But when all you have is just plain old ice cream, Brad, and you don't have an actual sundae going, that cherry is just seeping to the bottom of your cup. So I agree. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Falcons. Taysom Hill is a complete and utter disappointment as a starting quarterback. He's just not a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah, you might have seen me there text messaging while you were talking. I had the super fan sending me messages wondering where the Gods of Odds is. And so I had to say, buzz off, super fan. We're doing the show right now. As you're trying to bother me, I'm diligently trying to construct a plan here to catch Daba.
hopefully the super fan got my text. She did exactly what I asked her to do. Thank you. She disrupted you in mid thought.
All right. Is it my final game? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, you're up. Yep.
Okay, my final game is connected with my first game where I told you I think the Seahawks might pull off an upset, Dave. If that happens, suddenly the Cowboys really have nothing to play for, as I see it, because I don't think the Cardinals can catch them, and everybody else is 2 games back. So I'm saying the Seahawks win. The afternoon game means nothing to the Cowboys. The Eagles end up winning that game. Cowboys favored by 7. Give me the Eagles, Dave, your favorite team.
I love the Eagles. I mean, they made the playoffs. Nick Sirianno, major shout out to you, my friend. Look, as I look at this, it's going to be, I love Philadelphia when they have a good football team. It's fun to see, like a Philadelphia stadium when their football team is actually, doing pretty well. Like those bitter fans in Philadelphia cannot be mad when they think about where they started this particular season. They didn't even have to go trade for Nick Foles to get over the hump. And they got a bunch of draft picks coming back for the whole Carson Wentz thing. They're set up to build on really strong team. They weren't down for long is also the point I would make. I think this game means a lot to the Dallas Cowboys, regardless of what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my guns. I'm going to stick with the Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, it might interest you to know, however, now that you've already made that selection, Micah Parsons will not play in Week 18 for the Cowboys. That's a big sticker. The Eagles have rushed, I believe I saw, for 194 yards a game since Week 8. That's a good football team running the ball. They got something to play for now. I just think that line's way too big. 7 points? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
I'm going to take the Eagles. I think you're going to. I'm hoping my double prediction wins. I'm hoping the Seahawks beat the Cardinals and the Cowboys have nothing to play for.
Yeah, if I had known that, I might have gone with the Eagles, Brad. But I'll go ahead and stick with the Cowboys.
No, you're not getting out of that.
Stick with the boys. I'm going to stick with the boys in this one. I feel like I should make you pick this last game, but
I think Tryon Smith too might be out for that game, or whatever the left tackle's name is for the Cowboys.
All right, last game of the regular season. Rams at home against the 49ers. It's 2 head coaches who have won nothing in their careers to this point. I forgot to do it. I meant to do it. I was going to compare Nagy's head coaching statistics against Kyle Shanahan's head coaching statistics. You might be surprised how close they are when it comes to a win-loss ratio. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead in this game because it's the battle of coaches that have been to the Super Bowl but haven't won it. Sean McVay at home, an opportunity to knock out the 49ers. Will Jimmy play or not play? Even if he does play, are we going to see the Jimmy G that likes to overthrow people by 10 to 15 yards? Any sort of nicks and bruises for Jimmy G seem to cause him a lot of problems. I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams, and I can't wait for you to take the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I got to be honest with you. I something tells me the Rams are the better football team. But remember the first time they played? I think it was the first time they played, and the 49ers took the ball and went on like an 11-minute drive or something like that and scored a touchdown. And they were virtually unstoppable running the football against the Rams. And that's my big concern if I'm a Rams fan. Outside of that, I think the Rams have they still have a lot to play for. They can play for the 2 seed. That means something. That gets you, in essence, 2 home games. I don't think the Niners are a great football team. I don't think either coach is a great coach. I just kind of feel like the Rams have a lot more talent than the 49ers do. And unfortunately, that game was a long time ago that they met. I'm concerned about the Rams stopping that running game, but I'm going to agree with you, Dave, and I'm going to take the Rams, and I'm going to give up the 4 points because I think playing for the number 2 seed means more than what San Francisco's got going.
Yeah. I think that is a wise decision. So there you have it, North America, our top 10 games worth actually spending some money on for week 18. We are the gods of odds. Brad, I have a couple parting questions for you today. Well, my big one is come Monday, who's getting canned? Well, like if you were to apply for a head coaching job on next Tuesday afternoon, what are your options going to be in the National Football League?
I said all season long I thought the first guy to go would be the Giants, but it doesn't appear like the Giants are in any hurry to get rid of that staff out there, despite the fact that they're, I think, clearly right now one of the worst football teams in the league. I think the Houston guy has done some nice things down the stretch. I think he probably stays, and they at least give him a little chance. He had a lot of turmoil to deal with down there with the quarterback situation, and I think Dan Campbell has proven that he's a likable guy. He gets his team to play hard. They're still playing hard. They got a really talented young wide receiver in Ross St. Brown. So I don't think he goes. But I do think Zimmer goes, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fangio goes in Denver. I think, in particular, if they lose badly this weekend, which I think they will lose badly against Kansas City, I could see Fangio being gone. I'm sure there's others. I don't see the guy with the Jets being gone. They played too good a football down the stretch, and even though they didn't win that many games, they were game and they played hard. So I think the 2 most obvious ones to me are Zimmer in Minnesota, Fangio in Denver. And then, of course, everybody's been talking about Matt Nagy in Chicago, that he's going to be gone. So, I don't think there's any changes in Florida with the Dolphins or the Buccaneers. And obviously, Bill Belichick's not going anywhere. The Bills are fine. So, I'm just going through my head here some of the teams that we have listed. The Falcons guy, I don't think they're a very good team, but I think that Arthur Blank in the past has been kind of a guy that's a little bit slow to pull the trigger. I don't see him going anywhere. So those are my choices early on.
So I think some long shots. I've got 2 long shots. I talked about Matt Rule a little bit earlier. I don't know if that's going to be self-inflicted. In other words, he just decides to go back to college, or if they're going to part ways. I feel like that organization has lost a lot of faith in him, and maybe it shouldn't be his fault because they gave him Sam Darnold, but and then they followed it up with Cam Newton. But there have been some grumblings in Carolina, and remember that's a new ownership group that took that team over a couple of years ago. And I think like the one that might surprise people the most is potentially Pete Carroll in Seattle.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll, if Russell Wilson stays in Seattle, Pete Carroll's definitely gone. If Russell Wilson goes, I think Pete Carroll's, there's a high probability he's gone. I don't think Pete Carroll, has any desire to pick up and go to another football team. So this could be the end of the road on what I think will be eventually a Hall of Fame coaching career. So Vic Fangio is just it's sort of like John Elway could he's got enough justification to keep Vic for one more year. Like, he's got enough air cover. Like, if he wanted to keep Vic for one more year. He makes another coaching change, then the spotlight's back on John Elway. And something to think about and consider as we go through the year. Do you think the Raiders interim head coach will be the Raiders coach next year?
I do. I think he will. Yeah, I think he's done a nice job there. He's gone through a tough situation, having to deal with the Henry Ruggs thing, and then he kind of put it all back together. He took Humpty Dumpty and put him back together, and the Raiders are in a situation where I think if they make the playoffs, he's clearly back. Right.
All right, Mr. Hoysef, any last comments before we get out of here?
No, not really. It's still TBD whether or not we're going to be back next week. We may or may not, depending on our schedules. But it's been an interesting season. It's been a long season. COVID has really disrupted things. It's really made things tough to pick in terms of the games. But Dave has weathered it better than I have, and he's come out of this thing with a 2-game lead. And I'm kind of grasping at straws at this point.
I've learned to not be cocky until the game is officially over. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this year's regular season of the Gods of Odds. That is Brad Hoysef over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBob in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out Mighty.Rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.